Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Art Throwdown. And for anybody joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. We meet Monday through Friday, weeknights, 10 p.m. Eastern. Got a bunch of regulars that file in here, as well as some new faces as well from time to time. So it's always fun to see who pops in. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Russ. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Can't complain. It's nice and hot
You
up
can, but
here.
nobody's going to listen.
It's nice and hot up here in Boston now. Nice and
Yeah,
hot.
it got warm here today. I actually had to turn on my little room fan
Really?
because I don't have AC.
You don't? Oh, okay.
I don't.
I've got a bunch of people that just popped in here.
Yep, you're already getting comments on your T-Rex.
T-Rex is back, yeah. So as you guys can probably already guess, we're jelly printing again tonight. So this will be night number 3 of the jelly printing. And then I think starting tomorrow, which is, what, Thursday? Tomorrow's Thursday already. We will start doing something else. Haven't quite decided what else it's going to be, but I will attempt another craft tomorrow night that is not jelly printing.
So you got mail today, or at least you posted mail today.
Yes.
From Jim and Phil.
Yes.
But there's a pink envelope. It looks like a handmade envelope, maybe from England.
From Vancouver, British Columbia.
Vancouver. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and
great.
That was a jelly print. And rats, I took it upstairs. See, I don't have it right here at the table, but when you open it up.
Who did that, though?
One of the swappers on SwapBot did that. And if you look at the inside of it, it was actually a map, and it looks like it was something that she had tried experimenting with, and she had some like a dark brown paint rolled over the top of it, and then she maybe decided she didn't like that pattern, so she flipped it over, and then she just did that beautiful jelly print, that magenta colored jelly print that you saw in my feed. So yeah.
Well, the reason why I asked is that she uses a stencil that I've used on here before.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that's why it caught my attention.
Aha.
So I just wanted to see if it was one of our followers or if it's SwapBot. So
it is a SwapBot swapper. Yeah.
Cool.
So you guys have the same stencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is I'm starting to get into the habit of, and it's not for promotion's sake, but it's just for information's sake. Frank is here. We got so many people here. So, but I'm going to start announcing products, manufacturers. So if people wanted to go and get it on their own, they're able to.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if we can all just make a conscious effort, if we're using a product and we know the name of the manufacturer, like we do when we talk about, Mod Podge and plaid and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And the way that you do with your acrylics. But
yes. Yeah. All right.
And I have another piece of information I need to share.
Okay.
I appreciate all of you who explained, who instant mesh DM'd me to explain Jim's joke on Instagram about the Jelly Roll Morton. I was being silly, and I understood it, and I was just being silly, and I was teasing Jim through Instagram.
Okay.
But I probably got about 15 DMs.
Oh my gosh.
Explaining it to me. So I do thank you for trying to explain and look past my denseness, but it was all a joke. So, yeah. So that kind of backfired on me, but yes, thank you.
But then, so the genesis of that would have just been my off-key Jelly Roll song that I was singing the other night. Is that where that came from?
Maybe, who knows? But yeah,
because I kept singing about my Jelly Roll.
Yeah,
and I saw that it was from an episode. I forget what show it was from TLC, and this was from a while back. But like the song has been in my head ever since. And then I looked up Jelly Roll when I did the music sticker, and I'm like, oh my God, there's all these Jelly Roll songs on here. Who knew? So I'm always amazed at what's on their musical choices.
Frank is asked Frank. First of all, Frank says he's jelly of your jelly print. First of all, and he says, "Has everyone ever used jelly jars when you were a kid?" Absolutely. I grew up. I never knew that jelly jars weren't a thing. So, so yeah, I grew up drinking out of jelly jars, especially for breakfast. It's the perfect size for
It's great for
like your
orange
orange
juice.
juice, your morning
Yeah.
orange juice. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We had jelly
yeah,
jars too. Yes.
yeah.
All right. Well, so I will be jelly printing with my jelly roller, and also known as an ink brayer. What have you got for us tonight, Russ?
Well, I'm a little obsessed with June's explosion card. That's June, right? That's doing that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm about to go grab
So,
the one she sent me because I worked on
so,
it earlier. Ha ha ha.
so I have been going down the rabbit hole trying to um, try to find it, and I found everything but. So she is going to do the instructions for us. So thank you for that. Um, Frank wants us to do a baking show where we both make jelly rolls.
Baking. Well, I did have a video. I had a time lapse video where you can see me quickly making tea paper with my oven behind me here, but that is probably the only official baking that I've ever done or shown on my feed. So,
And if you're a fan of the Great British Baking Show or whatever it's called now, those are also known as Swiss rolls there. So,
I don't even
yes.
know what show that is. I've never seen that show.
Oh my gosh, you haven't lived until
I
you've
don't
seen
watch
that.
much TV. I don't have
It's
the
on
attention
cable.
span. Yeah, I don't watch.
It's on Netflix.
I don't watch much
Okay.
TV. Attention span. I don't.
So what I am going to do is I'm going to demonstrate, rather than this explosion card, I'm going to demonstrate how to make this little heart book.
It's a heart book.
Yeah. You see the little hearts?
Oh yes. It almost looks
So
like a
that's,
clover.
well, a three-leaf clover
Yeah.
maybe. But once I get all the embellishments, it'll look like a heart. So,
Cool.
so that's what I'm going to do because I couldn't find June's explosion
All right,
card.
June, if you're out there, and I think I saw her pop in earlier.
I think so as well.
Actually, let's do a quick roll call here. So who did I see? I saw Phil and Ashley and Carrie. Yes, June is here as well. Frank and Anna and Pam, Jim, Nan, and I think
Nick is here.
Mail some smiles.
Yeah,
And
Nick is here. Rockabilly
Rockabilly
Nick is
Nick,
here.
yeah.
Carrie is here. Letters to Carrie.
Very cool.
Ashley has called us enablers, by the way. She says that, yeah, and Carrie says the same thing, that she's bought so many things based upon our recommendations on ATD.
You guys
and I like
don't-
that designation, ATD.
Yeah,
It took me about half a day to
hashtag
figure out what
ATD.
that was. Yeah.
You guys are not allowed to call us enablers until we get some sweet endorsements from the likes of Plaidcraft. I'm like, Plaidcraft, buy me free stuff. Anyway, no, just kidding.
Yeah, Frank has mentioned Romper Room, and I haven't heard that in
Yes,
years.
I feel like I miss Molly. I'm like, I see Carrie and I see Nan and I see Anna. Like that's just I'm definitely getting some Miss Molly vibe here.
Okay, so you do what you do, and I'm going to do what I do. Mine is just folding, so if you would follow along, if you want explanations of what I'm doing, just pop in on the feed and let me know, and I will. June says she's working on drafting the directions because she couldn't find the exact card tutorial on YouTube.
So
Me
the
either, and I
question
tried.
is, how did June learn? June, where did you find that wonderful recipe for the explosion card? Did someone teach it to you? Did you see someone do it somewhere? What is its origin is what I want to know.
And what was the origin of that little gorgeousness you just showed up, that edge, those edgers, that page?
Also, compliments of June. So June sent me some Happy Meal recently, and these were in it. So I have been waiting to get my my jelly rolling process down a little bit more so that I'm more confident with it. I think I am. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So I am going to jelly roll these. Okay, so she made that explosion card years ago.
Yeah. But June, tell us how you made these edgers. If that's, I think it's an edger punch.
This is beautiful, by the way. Look at this.
It is, and so well done. And it's so, and that top, that top part of that bow, it's so thin that it's just so easy to tear that. So props to June for being able to do that.
And it traveled well too. I mean, the way she put it
Yes.
in the envelope, it traveled just fine. And I, very cautiously opened it, but it traveled well, and it's intact. And Nan, ATD is just the acronym for Art Throwdown. So people are just starting to call it ATD, which either, you know what, for me, potato, it doesn't matter. As long as I get
Well,
to
it
craft.
took me 2 days to figure that out, by the way. So you're not alone, Hipsta. It took me literally 2 days to figure out what that was. And I was so proud that I wouldn't, proud of myself or egocentric that I wasn't going to ask for help.
You're like,
I
I
actually
don't need
Googled
help.
it. I actually Googled it looking for it. So yeah, so so yeah, I can be that dense. So the jelly roll thing could be real. So yeah, but thank you for those. And then Phil says he wants to see a throwdown between me and you. That June will provide us with the demo, and then we will do a throwdown
Time box it.
using that same demo on the same night.
But
How about that?
we have to keep all the conditions equal though. Like it would have to be I think we would have to both use the same size and weight of cardstock paper, because that was
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have a referee.
Yeah.
We'll have a referee, and someone else can design the rules, and then we'll play within those rules.
All right. And I don't mean to jinx us, but I'm bringing Tangelo back out, okay? Don't talk about my grandson, Tangelo. Here he is, Tangelo. All right.
Carrie, that's a great idea. That'd be fun for all of us to do the same project and see how each of us interpret it. That would be fun, actually.
And we could do something where it's kind of like very minimal barrier to entry.
Right.
So you don't have to buy a bunch of I have, other than the little tour that you gave us once, I haven't seen the extent of your collection there. I assume you've got quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, it's an unlevel playing field without rules. So yes, absolutely.
Like,
I've been doing this
everybody's got a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I've accumulated a lot of stuff. I'm not going to say junk, but a lot of stuff. So I have a lot more at my disposal than most people do.
It's not junk if it has value. Am I right?
That's correct.
Some
That's
value
why I call
to
it
someone.
Stuff.
Supplies.
Rumble in the jungle, according to Ashley. For you WWF fans.
Oh my God. Thursdays are always, no, what's today? Wednesday? Wednesdays and Thursdays are always so zany. I feel like Monday night we're kind of like half asleep still from the weekend. Yes.
Lex, the Aussie, has joined. I forget who that is again.
The profile has a very nice picture of a dog.
Yeah, but it's a second profile. It's an alternate profile.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jennifer joined.
Jen has joined. Yes.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just going to start folding, and if you want instructions, I will narrate, but we will work in silence as we both do our projects. I'm simply going to be folding a crane paper base in origami. So if you've ever made those origami traditional cranes, that's what I start with. So,
okay. And I don't have pink other than that horrible pink color, so I'm going to mix. I'm going to see what I make. I've got real red and antique white, so a dab of each will probably do just fine.
A little dab will do ya?
Yes. A teensy bit.
I'm going to do a little bit self-promotion here. Jim has said that he is almost finished with his first page from my coloring book, so I'm really anxious to see what that is. And that's the other thing I do enjoy. I do appreciate everyone communicating with everyone else outside of this hour. And we've been having a lot of postcard sending amongst the group, which makes me very, very happy.
That is super cool, by the way.
Yeah.
Love that.
And not just that, just sharing of, I was talking with someone, some of you may know her, Blaze is her name. It's a rubber tramp artist, and she's a postcard person. And I am very happy to say that I have finished my inventory and my reorganization of all my postcards. And I found some from New Mexico, where she's from, um, and she's always looking for postcards, and she's makes some of her own postcards. So I sent her a DM today and told her that I was going to be sending her some vintage New Mexico postcards, because I really don't have a use for them. And I just said, it's just one of the luxuries of having excess. And came back to say, one of the luxuries of having excess is sharing it. And I thought that was such a great sentiment that,
Absolutely.
if we are able to share what others may not have, and spread the wealth around, and it's a good place to be.
And I made the mistake, but I did some swap botting the other day, and I got all stressed out because I'm like, oh God, this thing has a deadline, and am I going to make the deadline, and yada yada. I'm like, I don't know why I do this to myself. So I got through 2 smaller type 2 paper swaps, and I'm like, I think I'm done for a while with SwapBot. Yeah. I think I am. I'm like, I've got all of y'all out here, and that is totally enough. Perfectly.
Lex the Aussie is also crazy for stamps. I knew it was something.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's Jamie. Crazy for stamps is Jamie. Yes. I'm wagging my finger at you. It's Jamie. Yeah. Yes.
So what I'm doing is, now that I folded this, you want the mouth, what we normally call the mouth side, which is the open side. We want that facing up. And then you're going to take either a heart template, or hand cut. You can make your own template, because you want to keep 2 of these sides intact. So the bottom, and you're just going to trace a heart, and that is what you're actually going to cut out.
So are you doing like a heart template so that you have the same size for all of them?
Exactly. This is a nested template. This is a Fiskars template, and you have these in hearts and squares and diamonds and all those different shapes.
I did not know Fiskars made that, so thank you very much for pointing that out.
Yeah, this is about 10 years old. I don't know if this project is still available, but these have ridges in them, and what you would do is you would take a cutting tool that had a blade in it, and you would just trace around these shapes and would cut out of your cardstock or your paper, and that way you can have predestined sizes that nested.
Ah.
Jen is asking about the bingo idea.
I knew someone was going to ask about that.
People haven't forgotten about that.
I think Tangelo should be a bingo square.
Or anything orange should be a bingo square.
Uhu should be a bingo square.
And did you know there's a proper scissor technique?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so the idea is that you want to use only a very small portion of your scissors. So you don't want to do a long cut when you're cutting, only if you're just doing a straight shot. So what you do is you move the paper and not your scissors. And that's where people make the biggest mistake.
Oh, so you're basically moving the paper along the blade at that point.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have a lot more control. And then when you get to a pivot point, you close your scissor blade, and then you pivot the paper around it. And so, and you would make 4 of these little hearts. And then when you open up, then it really does look like a clover.
Ah, okay. So now you got your lucky 4-leaf clover there.
Right. And so you're going to do 4 of these. Okay. And then what you're going to do is on the next size down, you're going to cut a decorative piece of coordinating paper if you want. And then what you're going to do is you are going to mount each of these onto the heart. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. I'm just using double-sided tape. Hello, Janet. Welcome. Mails to smiles. Mail some smiles.
Hi. Oh, hi,
Um,
Janet. Okay, it's awesome because we've had folks that join that are semi-regular, and I'm like, I knew your handle, but I don't always know your real name or where you're from. So thank you for sharing that.
and Janet, I would love to know where in Texas you're from. Um,
I was gonna say, oh, you know what? I was actually gonna make the "damn it, Janet" reference, but there, she beat me to it. All right,
yeah,
all right.
that's Ashley. Ashley is on the uptake. She was the one that called me out and corrected me on Instagram about Jim's posting. She said, "No, you're not, silly." So yeah, she knew I wasn't confused. She knew I was playing a joke. So
So June, check it out. I hope she's watching. Look. So this is the finished product of these beautiful lace punch cards that you sent me. I love this. This is going to make such a beautiful card, or like a note card. I'm planning to use this as, and I will probably use, if I send this to a pal of mine, I will probably use a white pen on top of this just so that there's like nice contrast of background. But yeah, I'm loving this. These little, how delicate these little punches are. Super cool.
I actually made a book with each of those pages opposite the spine was made with one of those punches, and it sold out so quickly. Uh,
Really?
yeah.
And as you guys can see, I've got quite a bit of leftover paint here that's kind of gummed up on my jelly plate, but that's okay because it's going to become part of my next print. And by the way, index cards also work pretty decently on this. So if you have leftover index cards, our scouts had written as part of one of their activities, they had writing on the back of them. So I'm just repurposing these, and these will make for great, great prints, jelly prints.
Well, Janet had to leave. She's going to watch the recap. Thank you for joining us,
All
Janet.
right. You can watch
We
us
will
in the
take whatever time we can
future.
get with anybody here. So that's yeah. No, seriously,
Absolutely.
it's just yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm totally happy with people just popping in saying hi. Absolutely.
Mr. 7980 joined. Welcome.
Hello. Good evening. All right. Let's see what this turns out to be.
So this is what these are the pages. So you put hearts on 3 of them. You're going to leave the other one empty, and you do that for all 4 of them.
And the other realization, Russ, that I'm coming to on this jelly printing is I probably want to invest in a pack of white or light colored cardstock.
Yes, I
It's,
would agree, and it's so inexpensive
yeah.
to where it's easy to find. So
Oh, yeah.
I
Now, don't get me wrong. I am a fan of loose leaf paper. I always have been. I always will be. And like even these, like my print offs, this I will use. I will use this for something. It will get repurposed for something. Maybe a background on an envelope or something. Not sure yet. Not sure quite yet what. But
Background for a postcard.
yeah.
Yeah.
A postcard or a
and
letter.
that's the beauty of those offcuts and everything, is that you can use it, and then it doesn't have to look perfect because you're going to cover it with stickers or whatever other decorative element. So you just need something to fill the page.
Right.
And so that's a great use for all those papers that just aren't perfect. So Ashley has asked what everyone is working on. Landy is working on her planner.
Oh. Check this out.
We have someone working on a book journal, sympathy cards.
Decluttering. All right. That counts as a project.
Absolutely. So I have all 4 of these. And then what you're going to do is on one of the ones, you'll see that 2 of them have crease marks and 2 of them don't. And so you're going to take one of the ones that doesn't have, and you're going to cut this loose. So you're going to separate just one little leaf of the clover. Giddy's joined. Hello, Giddy. Giddy is in Germany right now. She's probably getting ready to go to work.
Good morning. Yeah, it's like probably 5 a.m. there or 4 a.m. Good morning.
Yeah, and so what you're going to do is you're going to separate that, and then you're going to join one of these pages to that page that you just cut. Okay? I'll show that to you.
Hey, Russ, not to break your train of consciousness, check this out. Remember that lace print? You can still see the imprint. This was what we were trying to accomplish yesterday. But you see how this like negative image is still left here? You see that? So it's still there and it looks awesome. And then I just printed over it. So I think that's kind of sort of what we were trying to accomplish with the stencils yesterday.
Right.
I'm very excited about this. Okay.
You know, another thing that if you have in your stash, and you might, doilies. Doilies make great impressions on those jelly plates. Then you can use it for all kinds of projects.
I have a piece of a doily, half of a doily someone sent me. So there's this. Yes, I do. I've got this little half of a blue guy right here.
Phil says, well, you know, I got those, but they are mostly cloth. Are you talking about the doilies or something else? Did I miss a...
I think that was a grandma reference. No, Phil has cloth doilies in his home.
Oh, okay.
And I assume, Phil, that those are all like made by hand and not paper like this. Someone, I think a swapper sent this to me. That's where I've got that one.
My grandmother used to tat lace, and every one of her vertical surfaces had a doily on it that she hand tatted.
Oh my God.
You know, so like, you know how you lean your head back on the recliner and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, she always had, and then she also had them on the armrests, and so yeah.
Wow.
Which is where I think my mother got her affinity for plastic on the furniture. As a kid, I was never allowed to sit on the furniture unless it had plastic on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And you can imagine in the Texas heat,
Oof.
you know, you would try to get up and you'd stick to the plastic. You're going to have to help me with this one. All I see is My Wilco
Wellness.
Okay, there you go. I need to work on that. That's a skill.
You're like, is there like some username? Does it have cow in it? What is it?
Yeah. Because if it has cow in it, I'm there.
Like, yes. Yeah, I gotta say, this glow-in-the-dark pink, you need a lot of it, and it tends to, whatever chemical it's got in here to make it, quote, fluorescent or glow-in-the-dark. I don't think it really glows that well, but it makes it very, I don't know, it kind of self-separates once it gets on the jelly plate. So it's interesting. It's kind of like an interesting little chemical reaction that's happening right now on my jelly plate.
So what I'm doing now is I'm closing each of these clover shapes so that they close onto themselves. And the way you do that is you take the one that still has a crease in it and you fold that in half on itself. So Allison is working on jelly plate printing, and I am working on a explosion heart book. So now that you have these, you're going to assemble them on top of each other. And once again, normally I would be doing this with glue, but for the sake of the throwdown, I'm doing it with double-sided tape so you can see what the final product is. And of course, I would take much more time in all of these things if I were doing it for real. Phil, Ashley is saying she needs a good contact for appraising and selling antique lace. She has a lot of family lace, handmade, and would love to find appropriate sale price. Zoe joined. Hello, Zoe. Welcome.
Hey, guys. You can kind of see where the doily, half doily was on this one. Kind of made a little imprint towards the center. Oops. Need to make sure these are not layering on top of each other as they're drying, because you don't want the ink smearing everywhere. There we go. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so that is the little book, and then you would open it up like that.
That looks fabulous.
Yeah, it's a great little Valentine's thing, and you can put like little pictures. You can put little sayings, little quotations. So anything like that. So Ashley, Ashley's saying that she missed how I cut out the blue hearts. You can do a variety of different ways. You can just do the half page and cut out the heart, the half heart shape, and then trace that. What I did was I took my template, and then so this was the size of the heart to cut out the pages. And the next one nested down was this one. So I just simply traced this onto the blue paper and cut those out individually. And so you would need 12 of those for the book, and then you need 2 more to hide the ribbon, and 1 more for decoration in the smaller size. And I'll show those to you in a second. My Wilco Wellness is asking what type of paint you're using. She's using acrylics. The brand again was Applecraft, was it? I think you said
Apple Barrel, and you can find
Apple.
these. You can find these at Joann Fabrics. Frankly, you can buy them on Amazon. Some of them are as cheap as 99 cents a piece. Some are actually even cheaper if you get other colors like this Tangelo, which I always reference. I don't know why I laugh at it, but it's funny. But Tangelo was like 79 cents. So if you look around on Amazon, you can also get them very, very cheap on there as well. So this is kind of your, I would say this is kind of your starter pack for acrylic. So if you don't have acrylic paints, it's not a bad place to start because, you know, it's like $1.
Well, that's the
bottle.
thing. Until you find out if you want to pursue the actual craft,
right?
You know, in a different level, get the basics so that you're not too invested monetarily into a craft you may not pursue. Yeah. And that's from experience, people.
And that's from me being a Gemini. I'm like, I know myself. I'm going to ditch this thing after 3 days. And sure enough, tomorrow I'm going to something else that is not jelly printing. But look at this, index cards. It prints pretty well on pretty much any kind of paper. Obviously, the heavier, I will say, the heavier the weight of the paper is probably a little bit better because you won't get the curling of the edges once it dries. But even pieces of leftover loose leaf, like check these out. These are kind of cool. I will use these for something. So cardstock is probably the way to go for this.
And I think smooth surfaces probably work better as well, as opposed to textured surfaces.
Yes, I think.
So
that's
I would think like a smooth paper rather than like a watercolor paper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's textured. Ashley, were those lace collars still a thing? My grandmother used to have all those lace collars that she would make that were somehow removable, so she could put them on any dress that she had. Is that a thing, or am I making that up?
That sounds like a thing.
But my grandmother also had the neatest shoe buckles that they were like earrings. You know those clip-on earrings?
Mm-hmm.
They were like earrings, but she could clip them on her shoes to update her shoes any way she wanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, you'll see kind of the index cards do curl. So check this out. Clearly it's not drying flat, but it's still not a terrible reuse of some old index cards. So I'm going to set this off to the side to dry. Now, I haven't done the glitterific paint yet, and I'm still hesitant to put that on my jelly plate.
Pen Pals with Annie joined. Welcome.
Hello, welcome. And I'm definitely noticing some differences in quality of paint. So this is the brand of this one is called Crafter's Square. I think this is one of the Dollar Tree brands, and I did in fact get these at the Dollar Tree. So they're not terrible, but I did find that the cleanup on these takes a little bit longer to get this off your stencils or to. I have a piece of plexiglass here off screen that I use, so it takes a little bit of extra scrubbing to get those off, but it's still possible. But there's definitely a quality difference.
Okay, so here is my little heart book. So the idea is that you would tie this closed with the ribbon. Or the other thing we used to do is we used to make these into like little ornaments. So what we would do is we would go out to to the tree and clip off a branch. And then we would hang these off the branch for Valentine's Day. And just like we do the same thing for Easter eggs, hand decorated Easter eggs for Easter. And so that ribbon would help with that. You would just tie a bigger loop in your ribbon so that you would be able to hang it as a ornament. And then so you would just untie that like so. And then you would probably have it backwards here. I do. You would release the pages like so. And there you have your little...
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it's cute. So you have your little heart book.
And Russ, you said you found that on a tutorial online?
Yeah, this was on YouTube, but we used to make these all the time when I was little. Jennifer says, since it has a strong grain, Russ can explain whatever moisture you add to one side, you must add to the other. So we've talked about that a little bit. The idea is that paper has a natural grain to it depending upon how it was made. Mm-hmm. And so if you see like this particular sheet of paper, you see how it's not bending in this direction? So that means that the grain is this direction. And so whenever you're folding it, you want to fold it with the grain. So whenever you introduce, I talked about it when talking about glue, is that when you introduce glue, depending upon whether you're gluing with or against the grain, is going to depend upon how much your paper will curl. And so you want to be careful with that. And so one of the solutions, the difficulties what you're working on is that one of the solutions is that you can add moisture to the opposite side while it's drying. And so it'll be more likely to dry a little flat. So if you want to just take a water mister and mist the back of that, you could do that. Or the difficulty is that because you're dealing with paint, normally what I would do on my projects is sandwich it between 2 sheets of wax paper and then put it under weight. But the problem is that because you're dealing with wet ink or wet paint, that more likely than not, that will transfer. I like that yellow and purple one that you just did. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That some of that paint will transfer to the wax paper rather than stay on your project.
Right. So, and that was my fear of doing that. I'm like, am I going to lose some of my paint? I don't know.
Right.
So it sounds like that is.
Now, one of the things you may be interested in trying, not necessarily on camera, is that when you put your paper face down, like you just did with that particular one, you could take a water bottle and mist the back of it while it's down on the plate. And so then you have moisture introduced to the backside as well. And then that might help in your curling.
True. Let's see. I don't know that I have one.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that. Like I said, you can, for a future thing or when you're experimenting on your own.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably a good thing to try, especially with like these pieces of loose leaf. Like, yeah, they came out okay.
And will you believe it? It's already a quarter till.
What? I don't know how this. Every single night this happens, and every night I am stupidly surprised that I'm like, there's only 15 minutes left. How does this work? I don't know.
Phil said, where did my grandmother's stuff end up? It went to the female line of the family. And so it went to all my aunts and cousins. And so that they have all of that stuff, I think. Or they were given that. Whether they still have it or not, I don't know.
But it's funny, we did my uncle passed away a couple years ago, and we did a massive clean out of his house where my grandparents had lived there before him. So my grandmother actually left behind a lot of her lace cut work that she did over the years. And I mean, the detail on it was just absolutely stunning. I don't know how long it took her to do it, but it looked like just hours worth of work. So
I was reminiscing with my aunt just the other day. We were talking about the crafts that everyone did in the 60s and 70s and what we remembered. That was the idea behind these paper beads that I started earlier in the week, is that she had remembered my grandmother making them from wrapping paper, and that she had a necklace that somehow fell apart, and she was wondering if I could make some. And then we started getting into, do you remember all of that? Maybe you're too young, but maybe some of the older people that are watching, we used to do this rock art. So they were like little, almost like aquarium pebbles, and and then we would glue them and make photos, pictures out of them. And so we were talking about that as well. But my grandmother was a quilter, and so she made a quilt for each of the grandchildren. Each of the children as they were born. So, and of course, no one knows where mine is, since I'm not a real member of the family. But yeah, and I came to the family so late, but she still insisted that she make one for me. So, but my mom, when she was getting older, my mom had multiple sclerosis. She had one of the very first diagnosed cases of multiple sclerosis in the United States.
oh my gosh.
And she became a resource. So when people were newly diagnosed, the doctors would give out her name because it was so new when she contracted it.
Right.
But when she was getting older and less able to operate on her own, that she started labeling everything because she knew that the end was sooner rather than later.
Right.
So she started labeling everything with what she wanted to go to whom. And so that I always found that interesting. Now, that's a cool stencil, that star stencil. I like that.
It was a cardboard punch out. It actually had a star in the center of it, and I don't know. I just happened to find that lying on the table, so I decided to start using that. So I'm just gonna do an extra. This is the other thing I liked about this, is that you can kind of do some layered. You could just work with layers on this.
Absolutely.
Similar to watercolors. Like if something kind of screws up, you can just layer over it or add some more, background or detail or whatnot. But that was with my uncle, that was a challenge. It was very it was unexpected, his passing. So there was no will, there was no nothing. So it was like we had to kind of put the pieces back together and figure out, who was supposed to get what, because it was very kind of sudden. He passed of a heart attack. So but check this out. So here's my star.
I like that.
Yeah. And I even like the quote stencil that it made. So I'm definitely, oh, look at this. I'm definitely using this in my crafting. Definitely. But it was like a museum in that house. It was just packed to the gills with just old family heirlooms. And one of my favorite finds, actually, I found some cast iron cooking pans that had belonged to my great grandparents. Like they were like super old vintage Griswold ones that were not in terrible shape, actually. They were in pretty decent shape. So I have used those before, and they work pretty well.
Ashley says you're really taking to the jelly. So,
yes, I am.
Yeah,
this is like my third day of jelly.
Yeah,
hurrah.
You're doing some great work with it. No, seriously.
Jelly roll. Look at my jelly roll. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I love the layering. I mean, maybe that's why I'm digging this so much, is because, when I do my postcard collages, that's all about layers too. There's lots of layering involved in there. And if you don't like something, you can just slap an extra piece of paper or layer on top of it. So.
But Ashley, to your question, I don't know where the quilt is. So I don't know if one of my extended family have it. I was kind of kicked out of the family when I was in my 30s. for being gay. And I was only have been adopted. I only really lived with the family for 4 years. They adopted me when I was 16, and I joined the military when I was 20. And so for those 4 years, was the only really time I lived with that particular family. There goes your brayer,
I
with that
know.
particular family. So, but they're the last ones, so that's why I always call them, my family. But yeah, came home. I just got a teaching job. I was 35 actually, because I just got a teaching job in Tampa at the University of South Florida, and I was coming home to show off my brand new truck that I had bought. It was my first vehicle that I ever purchased, and I drove back, and one of my high school girlfriends, um, who still talks with my parents, went to the house and said, "Oh, I wonder if Russ is going to bring his boyfriend."
Oh my gosh.
And so they didn't know anything about it, and so I came home. It's a Mitsubishi pickup truck, a mini pickup truck, Phil. So I came home, and it was a tempest. How dare you do this to us? We took you off the streets when you're 16, and
Oh
this is how
my
you pay us
God.
back. And
I am
you're no
sorry,
longer
man.
welcome here. And so I got in my truck and drove back. I spent longer on the road than I did in my parents' house. And then my
Jeez.
mother never spoke to me again after that. She returned all of my letters. I wasn't invited. I wasn't even notified of her death until 6 months after she had been buried.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I am
So,
sorry, man.
yeah. And so I'm closer to my dad now because I think he realized the raw deal that she dealt. She was a very controlling person. So, her labeling her possessions to know what people she wanted them to go to was her ultimate control over people's lives. But yeah. So, but my grandmother on her side was much more accepting and always welcomed me with open arms. And yeah, and I would go and visit her without my folks knowing. And she was
Aw.
fine. Yeah, and she was fine with it. And so,
Grandmas are
then
so chill.
yeah,
I love grandmas.
and so I actually went to her. She insisted that it was in her will that I be invited to her funeral because she knew the
Aw.
hurt that my mom had caused by not inviting me to hers. So so yeah, and it's so funny because my grandmother knew that I was gay because she found one of my dirty magazines while she was cleaning up my room one time. And so yeah,
Grandmas always know this
yeah,
stuff.
and she pulled me aside one day and says, "I know." And she and I had a heart-to-heart talk, and
Aw.
she said that yeah, she was cool. But this was also the grandmother that used to scare us. Remember, I told you the story about
Yes.
yeah. So that was that grandmother. So yeah, but
Gotta love grandmas. Yeah, she sounded like an awesome, awesome, awesome lady. Now, Russ, did you pick up a lot of your crafting skills from her, or have you just been always crafting like way before that?
I was crafting. I remember making my very first greeting card when I was 16, and I colored an image, and I took some rickrack and glued it to the outside of a heart that was colored on the page, and I gave it to my mom, and I remember that was the very first arts and crafty thing that I ever did. Because in the orphanage we didn't have arts and crafts, and when I was living on the streets, you had better things to worry about,
Right, right.
but I remember my dad's rule in the house was whatever you do, don't do anything to upset your mom. So if you keep your mom happy, then I'm happy. And so that was always our rule. So I remember it was expected that we couldn't forget her birthday and we couldn't forget Mother's Day. All the other holidays and all the other things, nobody cared about. But those two had to be celebrated, and you had to provide something for our mom. And that was the rule. Jim says we have 5 minutes left.
Thank you,
So
Jim.
that's why I didn't have anything. And I just found out about that rule from my older and younger brothers. So I put together that hand colored greeting card for her. And she kept that in her uh, box, her trundle box, until the day she died.
Interesting.
Yeah. But she kept all the stuff that I made for her or that I gave her. I remember when I was overseas and I was in Thailand, I saw these beautiful heart medallions made out of semi-precious stones. And I remember I spent, a month and a half worth of salary to get her 5 different ones.
Wow.
And because when you're out at sea, you don't have anything to spend your money on. So,
True.
Yeah, and so I and then she kept those, and she was actually buried with those. So so it was a strange relationship, and so I never tried to figure it out. So Phil's asking why ultimately she did that. You understood when. Well, Phil, it's interesting. It's just that I became a sociologist because I never could figure out how someone could categorically hate someone else that they didn't know. So because of that, I never try to assume knowing what people know or why people do things that they do. Because when you start obsessing about that, then it just eats you alive. At least it does me. So I just release that to the universe and just move forward. Because it really doesn't make any sense to understand why if they're not going to change.
True. Yeah, it's a waste of energy at that point, right?
Yeah. So did I answer everyone's questions?
How do you make
Carrie,
your
I don't know
less
if she was hurt
wobbly?
in her life. I think maybe some of the MS had some of the things to do with it. She was a very religious person. My mom and dad went to church every day. My dad still does. My dad works for the church as a handyman at the church. So he goes to mass every day. And when she was alive, she went to mass every day. And she was in charge of the prayer chain. So if you needed a prayer intercessions, she was the person that you called. And then she would call all the other people on the prayer chain to pray for intercessions. And she did that for 20 years. And she was, talk about these people that are phone people. Mm-hmm. My mom had a phone in her ear. This is before cell phones, obviously. Had a phone in her ear 10 hours of the day.
Wow.
And she found that was her calling. And she thought that was why she was put on earth and to run the prayer chain and to, have people pray for people's intercessions. So if you wanted someone's health or, prayers for graduation or whatever the case may be, for a job or whatever, she was the person you would call at her church. And then she would just, get on the phone and start calling all these other people. And she would pray with people on the phone. She would, but I don't know if it was a religious thing. I don't know if she was hurt in her life. Carrie, getting back to your question, I don't know. But I stopped trying to figure out. Just like my biological parents, I finally had the chance to meet them. And
wow, really?
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole different story. But yeah,
that's another story for another.
That's
night,
another
right?
day because we're going to get kicked off here, and we do thank you for joining us on this hour, and it always goes so fast, and we do
really
thank
does.
you for choosing to be with us and to be with each other. And so,
and if anybody has any tips on how to make my camera less wobbly, like this has been driving me crazy. Look at my hands. This has been driving me crazy for the last couple of weeks. I have like a tripod. Anybody has anything that they like better for stabilizing the phone, let me know. I think I'm in the market for a better, because right now I'm like sideways somewhat.
But Carrie, the answer to that is that being happy is an active choice, and I truly believe that you can concentrate on the negative things in your life, and it's just going to eat you alive. So that's the answer to that. I choose to be happy. So
very cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing.
Well, folks, that's about it.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll do this again. And
no more jelly printing for me, though. I'm going to do something else. I don't know what it is
yet. Didn't mind the jelly prints. I didn't mind the jelly prints at all.
I might color. I mean, who knows? You never know. It's art throwdown. Anything could happen. Anything.